Good morning, beautiful creatures. I'm back with another guerrilla live stream. Surprise out of nowhere. It's a quiet Tuesday morning so far. And I wanted to give you some news, and this is um, part of the Beneath the Haunted Sky, the Evidence for Alien Abduction book countdown. If you'll look in the description for this video, you will see links that you can use to pre-order the book, which comes out on December 1st, so 10 days from now. The Kindle and the paperback will drop, and they'll be available at that time. And I would love for people to show their support for this subject, for the work that I'm doing, for the risks that I'm taking associated with it. And I would love for this to just start out on day one, just being a huge hit. And you can be a part of that, and you can help me, and I would really, really appreciate that. There's other ways to support the channel too. I have a Patreon, and I have other links that if you'd like to just simply donate, you can do that as well. I wanted to start off with a little bit of news. I wanted to talk to you about the NASA. NASA releases their report on UFOs, and they say more science and less stigma are needed to understand them. In its 33-page report, wow, they really dug deep. An independent team commissioned by NASA cautioned that the negative perception surrounding UFOs poses an obstacle to collecting data. Said that the study of UFOs will require new scientific techniques, including advanced satellites, as well as a shift in how unidentified flying objects are perceived. This is from NBC News. The space agency released their findings after a year-long study into UFOs. In its report, an independent team commissioned by NASA cautioned that the negative perception surrounding UFOs poses an obstacle to collecting data. The negative perception, yes, that's true, isn't it? There is a negative perception, and they're part of the reason. And I don't think that that's been overlooked by anyone who's in the know. But officials said NASA's involvement should help reduce the stigma around what it calls UAPs, or unidentified anomalous phenomena. We want to shift the conversation about UAPs from sensationalism to science, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson said. He promised an open and transparent approach. Can we just stop there for a second? An open and transparent approach. If there were an open and transparent approach, then you would already be telling folks. You're telling me that I know that UFOs exist. I know that extraterrestrials exist, that I personally have evidence that I have published that UFOs exist, but NASA doesn't get it. NASA, with their satellites and their space stations and technology and astronauts and scientists, they don't know. That doesn't seem very open and transparent to me. And I love this babe in the woods routine that they like to give us of, well, we'll see what there is to find. You know, officials stressed the panel found no evidence that UAPs had extraterrestrial origin. That's interesting. Officials said, but Nelson acknowledged with billions of stars and billions of galaxies out there, another Earth could exist. If you ask me, do I believe there's life in a universe that is so vast that it's hard for me to comprehend how big it is? My personal answer is yes, Nelson said at a news conference. His own scientists put the likelihood of life on another Earth-like planet at least 1 trillion. Again, let's stop there. These are scientists. These are scientists, guys, who are saying, well, there's a likelihood of another Earth-like planet, as though life could only evolve on an Earth-like planet around a sun-like sun. This is the highest amount of arrogance mixed with ignorance that I have ever seen demonstrated. Do you see the intellectual backflips that they are trying to do to try to explain away the existence of what is actually already here. You see, they want to pretend as though that only life could only evolve on an Earth-like planet. You know why? Because they've never seen it evolve anywhere else. Well, that doesn't mean that it can't happen or that we shouldn't consider those possibilities. We can say that there's a likelihood of at least 1 in 1 trillion, okay, of life evolving on another Earth-like planet. Sure. Um, that doesn't make sense though from a logical standpoint, that there are probably millions, if not billions, of planets that have some form of life on them that are nothing like Earth at all. And again, this is that arrogance. When pressed by reporters on whether the U.S. or other governments are hiding aliens or otherworldly spaceships, Nelson said, "Show me the evidence." Yeah. Okay. So they're the kid hiding the cookie behind their back going, "Nuh-uh, nuh-uh, prove I have a cookie. You don't see a cookie. There's no cookie back there. You don't see a cookie, do you? Just because I'm holding my hand behind my back doesn't mean I'm holding a cookie back there." Meanwhile, you can see the crumbs dropping behind him. I mean, you know, yeah, we have to show you the evidence. By how? Because you keep them locked away in places that we can't get to. Again, this is so arrogant and it's insulting. It's insulting to any intelligent person. Show me the evidence. Okay, well, grant me the access and I'll get you the evidence. You see what I mean? You can't get evidence when they hide it somewhere you can't have access. It's stupid. It's a stupid game. NASA has said it doesn't actively search for unexplained sightings, but it operates a fleet of Earth circling spacecraft that can help determine, for example, if weather is behind a strange event. Okay, so we're interested in finding out if weather does weird stuff, but we're not going to try to track alien craft. We're not looking out for extraterrestrials when we have overwhelming proof that they are here. The 16-member panel noted that artificial intelligence and machine learning are essential for identifying rare occurrences, including UFOs. How about we try just some good old natural intelligence for a change and some human learning for a change instead of artificial intelligence and machine learning? Let's try natural learning and natural intelligence, because we can do this with just this, this still works pretty good in some of us. And also, UFOs are not a rare occurrence. If they are such a rare occurrence, then why have I seen so many? Why do I have pictures of so many? Why have I been abducted so many times? It is a lie. It is not a rare occurrence. NASA recently appointed a director for UFO research, but is not divulging the identity to protect them from the kind of threats and harassment faced by the panel members during the study. Quote, "That's in part why we are not splashing the name of our new director out there, because science needs to be free. Science needs to undergo a real and rigorous and rational process, and you need the freedom of thought to be able to do that." Yes. And without telling us who they are, they can also do it without any accountability whatsoever. Isn't that convenient? Now, no top secret files were accessed by the scientist, aviation, and artificial intelligence expert, and retired NASA astronaut Scott Kelly, the first American to spend nearly a year in space. Instead, the group relied on unclassified data in an attempt to better understand unexplained sightings in the sky. Officials said there are so few high quality observations that no scientific conclusions can be drawn. Most events can be attributed to planes, drones, balloons, or weather conditions, said the panel chairman David Spergel, president of the Simons Foundation, a scientific research group. Okay, so there's so few high quality observations that no scientific conclusions can be drawn. What's your baseline? You don't have one. You don't have one, because if you had a baseline, then we'd have to hold you to it. You see, if you explain to us what your evidentiary baseline is, it could be satisfied, but they won't. They'll just say, I don't know. They just shrug. There's so few high quality observations. Why is my book filled with Beneath the Haunted Sky? It has many, many pictures, clear pictures of UFOs, UAPs, whatever you'd like to call them, alien spacecraft. That's what they are. And you can use whatever polite euphemism you'd like, but that is what's going on. Hi, Chrissy. Good morning. Thank you for joining me. So if there's so few, do I have them all? If so, you better buy Beneath the Haunted Sky, because apparently I have all of the good UFO pictures. And most events can be attributed to this there. Most. They didn't say all. Let's talk about the ones that you can't attribute to normal things. Those are the ones we want to discuss. I don't care that somebody took a picture and you discovered it was a weather balloon. I want to talk about the ones you can't explain, not the ones you can. The government refers to unexplained sightings as UAPs versus UFOs. Okay, you can change the terminology all you like, but we are only talking about one thing. We're talking about extraterrestrial craft. We're talking about non-human craft operated by non-human entities in human airspace. That's what we're talking about. So they can church it up as much as they like, change the language, whatever you want to say, but we are talking about the same subject. NASA defines them as observations in the sky or elsewhere that cannot be readily identified or scientifically explained. Well, they can be everything. Everything can be scientifically explained if your science is in order. The study was launched a year ago and cost under $100,000. Hey, you know what? You can get a better study of the UFO phenomenon and the alien abduction phenomenon for $9.99. You go to the link in the description of this video and pre-order the Kindle book Beneath the Haunted Sky, the case for the evidence for alien abduction, and you can get a much better study. It is a personal study in this particular phenomenon. So we can see that there isn't going to be any actual, movement on this topic. Disclosure is a joke, and everyone keeps falling for it. I hear all these channels who are like, disclosure, it's going to happen any day. They're coming out with it. Oh, you just wait. Remember a month or two ago when they had the congressional hearings? You remember that? And everybody was like, oh, this is it. Oh, they're going to disclose. What happened? Nothing. Empty pockets. We had nothing. They got 3 or 4 really good witnesses, and then nobody did a damn thing about it. They said, well, where's the evidence? Just because they saw this, blah, blah, blah. And they got shot down. One of the guys, David Grush, they tried to make a big story and do this little info drop where, they wanted to talk about the guy's mental health because he struggled with depression and stuff like that. You know what? I tell you what, I struggle with depression. You know why? Because this topic keeps being ignored, keeps being minimized, and the personal trauma suffered by people like me, suffered by these pilots who are risking their lives to take on impossible tasks for people who are ungrateful and live in disbelief. You'd be depressed too, and it's such nonsense. While I agree there should be disclosure, we're no closer now than we were during Roswell. We're no closer to disclosure, are we? And while I agree that there should be disclosure for the sake of public safety, there is very little chance of actual disclosure, because you can't just let the cat a little bit out of the bag. You must disclose. If you disclose, what they will be disclosing is, yes, they exist. Yes, they're coming here. And oh, by the way, there's not a damn thing we can do about it. Right? That the government and the military are helpless against the extraterrestrial invasion of our airspace, or to defend the citizens of this globe from abduction, or really anything that these beings want to do. And we have plenty of evidence for that, don't we? We have the evidence of people being hurt by UFOs, people being taken by UFOs, extraterrestrials, cattle mutilations, other animals being mutilated, people being killed by exposure to like radiation, things that these craft give off. And so, do you really think the government is going to acknowledge the existence of extraterrestrials and simultaneously acknowledge that we have no way of stopping them, tracking them, catching them, or fighting them if necessary? I don't think so. Does anyone really believe that the military or the government is going to disclose this to us? I just find that to be highly doubtful. Yeah. And let's talk about disclosure for a second. Why is disclosure necessary? Hmm? Why would we need disclosure? Sorry, I need a drink. We're doing coffee today. Celebrated a little bit too much the other night. I had a great time, and I had a great time talking to you guys. And I felt like it went really well. But I need a little bit of a break from celebrating. I hurt myself. That's how you know you did it right. But why is disclosure necessary? I have to tell you, I'm fascinated, absolutely fascinated by the selective ignorance of human beings. Do you know 95% of the human population on this planet believe in a God with absolutely no evidence whatsoever, no scientific evidence? Okay? 95% believe in a God with no evidence whatsoever, but only 1 in 5 believe in the existence of extraterrestrials or UFOs, even though there is an overwhelming amount of scientific evidence to support that assertion. It is selective ignorance and it is delusion. Now, I don't have a problem if people believe in God or whatever with no scientific evidence. Okay, you're allowed to believe in things that don't have evidence. You're allowed to. I don't find it to be a good practice necessarily to believe in that which can't be proven, but you damn sure better believe in what is proven and what there is evidence for. Believing in something without evidence is optional. Not believing in something that has evidence, not an option for us. And we have to remember that of all the overwhelming evidence that we have, of like I show in the book Beneath the Haunted Sky, the evidence for alien abduction, it's only really a small percentage of what is actually happening in our skies. There are things that are happening which are low enough and slow enough for the human senses to perceive. We also know that these craft can cloak, that they can travel at speeds that far surpass our senses or even our brain's ability to process. Thus, while some of us who are in the know, may feel inundated, even overwhelmed by the presence of UFOs or UAPs in our skies, we must understand that it is only a small fraction of what is potentially there. I want to talk about experts as well, people who they consider to be experts. Who are they bringing in? And one of these just absolute darlings is a fraud and a charlatan named Dr. Stephen Greer. I know he's really popular. Just because something is popular doesn't make it good. Don't believe me? Just get on TikTok. But The reason I say that he's a fraud and a charlatan is because this guy was an emergency room doctor, which great, you know, left all that. And now he's supposedly an expert in extraterrestrial propulsion, that he's the leading cutting edge expert in sciences that he has not gone to school for, he doesn't study, and has never contributed to the field, yet somehow is considered an expert. And also, he says things that I know no person who's ever been in contact with an extraterrestrial would say. And one of those things that he says that I find to be highly spurious in its assertion is that he sells people, and I say this, but women, he does this with women a lot, is he tries to convince them that he can teach them how to communicate with extraterrestrials. Anyone who's ever been abducted knows that you shouldn't do that. And it is a dangerous and a reckless practice to engage in, let alone to try to teach others or convince them that they can do. You have no control over who you are communicating with, and you do not want these extremely powerful beings inside your head. What he preaches is nonsense. It is reckless. It is disinformation. And it is the hallmark of a fraud and an outright charlatan. I know for a fact that the beings that I interact with, the Greys, which you can read about, and I tell you a lot about them in Beneath the Haunted Sky, they are telepathic, and they prefer to communicate telepathically. I think they have trouble doing it any other way. But when they have a conversation with you, it's all inside your head. You see, we are receivers, but we don't broadcast out. This is one of the reasons I know Stephen Greer is an absolute liar, because he tries to pretend that you can send these thoughts out and they will receive them. We don't work that way. They do. You see, when they speak to you, the entire conversation takes place inside of your mind, not theirs. There's not a back and forth. They go into your mind and they communicate with you, and then they hang around and listen to your response before they leave. That's how they really work. And anybody who has actually been abducted, who has actually interacted with these beings, would be able to tell you that. To try to convince people that we're psychic and telepathic, we're not. But we do have the ability to receive communication from them and to communicate with them inside our own head. But we are not yet evolved or developed enough to be able to infiltrate the mind of another being. And to be telepathic means you have to have that ability. They have this development that is far beyond us, where they can actually infiltrate minds. You do not want to ask a being that you don't know to infiltrate your mind. That's a bad idea. It's bad practice. And to try to teach people this, to encourage folks to engage in the practice of inviting extraterrestrials into their mind, is one of the most dangerous and just completely stupid things that I've ever heard. And this is kind of his bread and butter. He does this a lot. He makes a pretty decent living, I guess, by defrauding people, and he does this by giving false promises. And by giving false information and by enticing people who don't understand how dangerous that practice would be, that they too are telepathic and you're psychic and you can communicate with the alien. Don't do that. Don't do that. And then when they come up with empty pockets, when they finally realize that he's a fraud, well, they've already signed all the non-disclosure agreements. That's this thick. I always think it's so ironic that the guy who says he's so much for disclosure has had people sign more non-disclosure agreements than anyone in history. This is why you never hear anything bad, really, uh, that people have interacted with them, because they don't want sued into the apocalypse for it. And so we have to be very careful who we listen to. And we have to make sure that those people are bringing forward their best evidence. And that's why I'm doing this, because I have some of the best evidence you will ever see. And I put it in the book Beneath the Haunted Sky, The Evidence for Alien Abduction. Nothing in that title is an exaggeration. I bring you plenty. The paperback is $25, which is fairly expensive for a book. I mean, it's not $1 million, but for the average book, it's a little bit pricey. But do you know why? Now the Kindle's $9.99. You can get the Kindle for $9.99, and you can look at it on your screen and all that. And you will see the same things. There's no shortcuts in between the Kindle or the paperback. But the paperback is 8.5 by 11. And I fill that book with as many fantastic photographs that I possibly can, that I have accumulated over the last 20 years of my experiences. And I put them all together in their big, beautiful, full color pictures. I show you the artifacts that I have been given over the years. I tell you about all the different ways that I have interacted with these beings and how they interact with us. I tell you what they've told me during our interactions. I explain the reasons for certain things. Like, for instance, there is this phenomenon, and I was actually watching this on Ancient Aliens, and they talk about, are UFOs causing natural disasters? Why would you say that? Well, because whenever there's these natural disasters, you see UFOs. Well, that is true. You do. But the reason that you see UFOs around natural disasters is not because they're causing them. It's because that's where they were, and they know about it before you do. They're in the volcano, so they know it's going to erupt before you do. Because they hide in volcanoes. You'll see them come out of the ocean and take off before an earthquake. Yeah, because they felt it down there and knew it was time to go and get out of the way. You see, these beings have a technology that most humans just won't comprehend, that have the ability to survive in these extreme environments. I mean, these craft that can survive space, that can survive micrometeorites and radiation and extreme heat, extreme cold, no pressure, 1 million pounds of pressure. And so this enables them a freedom to be able to explore or exist in environments that human beings cannot. See, we tend to try to reduce everything down to the human scale, which is such small thinking. We say, oh, well, there must be other Earth-like planets out there with life. There are a billion planets out there that are nothing like Earth, that have life on them. We just think too small. We think too limited in the way that we approach things. And we also think too small in the way we approach ourselves. We we say that we are we're the highest evolved beings on the planet, but we're not. We're not. I mean, this is a lie. This is a lie that we tell ourselves when the evidence simply does not support it. And okay, I'll let this out a little bit. Okay, we'll talk about this today. But listen, before I get to this, and I know it's probably going to be a little controversial, but if you think about it, it's really not. I want you to click the link, please. I want you to pre-order Beneath the Haunted Sky, the evidence for alien abduction. I want you to see that there isn't going to be any government disclosure. NASA isn't coming to help you. The government isn't coming to help you. The military is not coming to help you. There are no three initial government agencies who are riding in like the cavalry to save us. They're not even going to tell us the truth, because the truth, I think they believe, will terrify everyone. But I don't believe that. I think you're stronger than that. I think you're smarter than that. And I think you deserve better. I know you do. And so that's why I have compiled 218 pages of the best evidence, my true experiences, what my interactions with these beings, communications I've received, every possible angle. I even lay out the standards and a scientific baseline for how to prove the existence of extraterrestrials if it will be practiced and followed through. I put in a classification system that can be used, that you can classify what type of object it is, and you can classify how to perceive that object. For instance, you find an anomalous object and you can cross match that with another one. Okay, fine. Now we have a confirmed anomalous object. And then now we determine what is the status of that object, and is it passive? Is it intrusive? Is it destructive? Is it aggressive? You see, is it deadly? See, once we cross match it and we know that this has been seen in more than one place, well, now we have to determine its safety level. Kind of like, I don't know, I don't know, do you know what SCPs are? I know they're made up, whatever. But I like I find it fascinating. I really do, because they classify each one of those SCPs as a certain tier, right? Based on their threat level. And we have to do the same thing. We kind of have to treat UFOs like SCPs. I don't know. I'm not using too many initials. um, but that's what we have to do. And I lay out the scientific baseline for how to do this. And it's not that difficult. I even teach you how to cross match UFOs. By the way, I wrote a paper once, a scientific paper on the cross matching and classification of UFOs. And I presented this to MUFON at a presentation. And they asked me if they could keep the paper that I wrote, which I did. I gave it to them. But it goes to show you how lost these supposed investigatory agencies are, that I'm just a guy. I mean, I do certain things well, but I'm a single person, and all of them as a collection couldn't come up with these thoughts or these concepts. I find that very difficult to believe. And if it is true, that's terrifying. These are the ones who are in charge. Help. Help, you know? But I wanted to talk about some of the things that have been relayed to me about how we are evolved, but artificially so. So these beings did relate to me that we have been artificially evolved. We were tweaked initially, and that didn't do so well. So they took the tweaked version and then they combined that with some of their genetics. And we are the result of that today. And I said, well, how do you explain that? How does that manifest itself in us? That in ways that we could recognize. Because it's hard to really see yourself in the mirror, you know? You ever notice that? It's hard to really see you. You tend to look at the parts that make you look the best to yourself, but we don't really see everything. We can only ever see a part of something at any one time. It's very difficult to see the whole entire picture. And so the communication I received was, well, you don't see fish. They said allergies, and I'm like, allergies. They said, yeah, when was the last time you saw a fish allergic to the water or a bear allergic to the woods? You see, when you have, extreme allergies like I had as a child and I still suffer from occasionally, this is not. Have you ever seen a squirrel sneeze? Like I haven't. I mean, does it happen? Oh yeah, it can. But in general, we don't have bears out there needing allergy shots. They were born in the woods. They evolved in the woods. They live in the woods. It's their environment. You are not allergic to your own natural environment unless it's not your real environment. You see, and we're so evolved, right? We're so evolved. Can I argue with you about that for a second? Because we have evolved with no natural protection against the elements. I'm wearing a sweater. This is not my wool. This is from a sheep in Ireland, maybe 3 sheep in Ireland, and so's the hat. By the way, we're going full Irish today. But we have no natural protection against the elements. That doesn't seem very evolved to me. It seems like every other animal, every other creature that's evolved on this planet has some type of protection against the elements. We must wear clothes because we don't have natural protection on our body. For instance, like I have pale skin and blue eyes. How does that help me in any way? I have to put on sunscreen and sunglasses and a long sleeve shirt to protect me from my own environment. You're telling me that we are the most highly evolved creatures on this planet, yet we have to use artificial means to adapt to that environment. That doesn't make any sense. From any scientific standpoint, any way you slice it, that's nonsense. We have like I have no natural protection from the sun. Everything on this planet lives under the sun. Why would something evolve in a way that is dangerously unprotected? While blue eyes may be nice, they're not very helpful because in the summertime, I'm blind outside without sunglasses. In the wintertime, if it snows, I'm blind without sunglasses. Like I have a really, really hard time dealing with light. My skin is very pale, and I have a very hard time dealing with the sun. Why, if we are so highly evolved, would we still need artificial means to adapt to something as universal to our planet as the sun? Just the sun, you see. We have no natural defensive or hunting capabilities. How about that? No teeth, no fangs, no claws. We have no natural weaponry on us. So therefore, we have no way to defend ourselves, and we have no way to hunt um, unless we create artificial means. We are the slowest and weakest animal on the planet. We couldn't whoop any animal in a fair fight. Name one. Uh, we also have the dimmest senses. We have the dullest senses of any creature who has ever lived on this planet. All meat eaters, for instance, on this planet, have the ability to use their natural weapons, their body, and their instincts and their senses to hunt animals and prey. Humans cannot. We are artificial transplants, if you will. I mean, all of these things suggest that at least part of our genetics came from somewhere else that did not evolve in this type of environment. I mean, even the 95% of people who believe in God, religion says that God created man and put him here. To believe this claim is to believe that we are an artificial creation placed in an already created environment. Right? See, we must create weapons because we are not born with any type of natural weapon or defense. We must buy houses because we do not know how to instinctually create our own. I mean, they literally call primitive man cavemen because they just simply found a hole in a rock. Sorry, it's been a busy morning, apparently. Um, but, they call them cavemen because they lived in caves. They didn't build anything, they didn't have any instincts that told them how to create shelter. They just went, oh, there's a hole in a rock. Let's go over there and stay there. That that doesn't sound like we have the right instincts, does it? Uh, we have to make and wear clothes because we have no natural protection against the elements for neither heat nor cold. Some of us must wear eye protection against the sun and use artificial clothing and sunblock to protect us from our own environment that we are so highly evolved in. Does that sound like any other species that has evolved on this planet? How many species get weaker as time goes on? How many develop weaker senses as they evolve? You see, this goes against evolution. Some of us uh, are the product of genetic interference from being combined with a species whose genetics evolved in a completely different environment. And these traits are partially expressed in us. See, the grays have green or blue eyes. A lot of times you'll see that their eyes, they appear black. So there's two instances in which this will occur. One is they can wear like these sclera lenses that are some type of technology they have which regulates light. It either takes really bright light and dims it down, or it takes really dim light and enhances it so they can see. It's two-way vision. Or they also wear helmets, which accompany their suits that they will often wear when they are in a foreign environment. And these helmets have these very large, kind of rounded out lenses that do the same kind of thing. But if you saw them without it, you would see that they have blue or green eyes. Until 10 to 12,000 years ago, no one on Earth had blue eyes. Why would they? Mutations happen and are carried forward genetically when they are of benefit to the species. How does having pale skin and blue eyes help anyone? in any environment on this planet. It doesn't make sense. You see, dark skin, dark hair, dark eyes are the perfect set of traits to survive the conditions on this planet. Hmm. You have protection from the sun, heat absorption to protect from the cold, and melanin to protect from the sun's harmful rays. Well, doesn't that make a lot more sense? Yeah. But see, they want to convince you that, oh, well, these are mutations that are carried forward, blah, 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 and all this other stuff. All the like when you look at our DNA, there's a lot of it that just doesn't show up. And they call this junk DNA. There's no such thing as junk DNA, despite what you've been told. When we were interfered with by another species, they simply turned these other genes off so there would be less competition for the genes they have intertwined with ours. One of the other things that is very interesting that ties back to religion is they're very interested in firstborn genetics. In religion, Jesus was firstborn. And in fact, God was so interested in Jesus being a firstborn that he made sure that he impregnated a virgin. She hadn't even had sex yet, so there was no chance, zero chance of Jesus not being firstborn. And what was Jesus? Jesus was a combination of Mary, a human, and God. Sorry about that. So God and a human combined their genetics and made Jesus, and Jesus was spectacular. Yeah, that he was gifted, and he was also firstborn. Noah was firstborn, and these beings researched his lineage to make sure that there was no incest in his family line, that his family line, they said, was pure in all of its generations. And then they chose the best human line at the time to create Noah, who was again part human and part them. And guess what? He had pale skin and blue eyes. And he was the first person in recorded history to have those traits. I'm a firstborn who is the product of two firstborn parents. And then my son was the product of two firstborns, and his grandparents were also firstborns. And they seem very interested in abducting those kind of people. These genetic lines are extremely important to the Greys. It has been established, scientifically established by humans, that firstborn genetics tend to be the best for a myriad of reasons: age, health, environment, etc. And these tend to be the people that the Gray people are most interested in abducting, cloning, reproducing, and combining with their own genetics for their own purposes and agenda, which I outline very clearly in Beneath the Haunted Sky. We've been sold a pack of lies for a very long time. And the reason that it's been so successful is because there is almost no one who has had enough experiences with the beings themselves to be able to tell you the difference. There are people who are charlatans who pretend to know, but they never come up with any new information. Yeah. They never tell you something that you haven't seen in a movie or heard on the internet. Very few people have had these genuine experiences over a period of decades on a person-to-person level. I don't believe they tell everyone everything. They don't tell me everything. I know what I know, and that's it. So we've been given a lot of lies, and one of the biggest lies is our science. And in Beneath the Haunted Sky, I hope you click the link below and you hit the pre-order. I hope you get this book. I would really love for you to support the channel and support what I'm doing. Look, this isn't easy, you know? It's not easy to put all this together and to take this risk. I've spent many years building up my reputation by doing really good science and making discoveries and bringing them forward and fighting the good fight against the lies that science has tried to drown us in. And some of these lies have to do with our physics. You see, because we don't understand physics well, then we're not going to understand what we're seeing in the sky. We're not going to understand its behavior. We're not going to be able to recognize advanced science if our science is completely inadequate. And one of those things is gravity. My first book, the Leeds Calling Codex, Breakthroughs in Understanding the Coral Castle, was a #1 bestseller in the physics of gravity. It's 59 pages. It's just 59 pages. And it absolutely rocked the scientific community. Because I understood that gravity, well, the concept of things fall down, yes, I get that. But what they are characterizing it as is completely fraudulent. It's false. And for instance, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I like to describe as a person. What's it? God's love never ends. Oh, hi. I'm sorry. I was reading some stuff. I'm not ignoring you. Hi. Monday is not the first day of the week either. Sunday is. That's right. Saturday is the seventh day, the Sabbath day of the week, and the one that is referred to. That's right. Constant change. Oh, Constantine changed the days and the times. Oh, that's right. Because Constantine wanted to convert everyone to Christianity, and there was some. Yeah, that's absolutely historically correct. 100 on that. Thank you for joining me, by the way. God's love never ends. I appreciate you being here. Yeah, he wanted to convert them to Catholicism. That's right. Because Constantine was converted, and then he wanted to convert everyone else. But Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I like to laughingly say couldn't discover chicken if you locked him in a KFC, he says, "Well, we understand gravity." He was on a podcast with Joe Rogan, podcast number 1347. Go look it up if you don't believe me, and listen to the arrogance of this guy as he tries to convince you of the superiority of his ignorance. And he says, well, we understand gravity. I can land something on Mars. I think I understand it. Hey, Cosmic Nomad, so cool you're doing live. Hey, I'm going to be doing a bunch of these, by the way, leading up to December 1st and the book release. This is all to celebrate and to create awareness for my new book, Beneath the Haunted Sky, The Evidence for Alien Abduction. And I want you to know that I love you guys, and I'm going to be working so much harder than I have in the past. I know that I haven't been producing a lot of content, and that is gone. Like, I am going to start becoming a content monster. We need to bring so much more awareness, and people like me who have the information and have the insights, we need to get it out here. We need to do the work, and I need to do that work, and you guys are here for it, and I appreciate you. Thank you, Cosmic Nomad. I really enjoy you being here. I haven't seen you in a while, and I'm glad that you're back. But we have Neil deGrasse Tyson's, the Michael Shermers, the absolute arrogant pseudo scientific skepticism that he says that we understand gravity. This is an outright lie. No, we do not. We do not understand gravity. Stephen Hawking, who I consider to be much more intelligent than Neil deGrasse Tyson, said, just admitted it. He said, "We do not understand gravity or its principal role in the universe." That is a direct quote from Stephen Hawking. No, we do not understand it. And you know how I can prove that we don't understand it? The hallmark of anything that you truly understand is that you are able to manipulate it and control it, right? Electricity is a great example of that. We can generate electricity, we can manipulate electricity, we can control electricity. So therefore, in this case, I would say, yes, we understand electricity. But how much of gravity do we control? If you're ever bored, you should check out Maurice Cotterell's research on gravity. I don't understand it fully, but I've heard that name. And I will do that. Thank you for the recommendation. But let's talk about that gravity. How much gravity do we control? None. Zero. Can we generate gravity? No. Can we manipulate gravity? No. So, if we do not understand gravity, how could we understand a craft or an intelligence that is? How would you know what that would look like? Now, we call what we see them, the way their crafts move and operate, we call it anti-gravity, right? Because it's our assumption, and I think a good one, that when you don't see propulsion, you don't see control surfaces, and those things, yet it's still able to move and it can move in any direction. I think that what they are doing is some type of manipulation of the force. It's not really a force, but gravity. We'll just say gravity because that's the universal term. They are manipulating the attraction and repulsion of their craft to the planet. How's that? That's as fair as I can be, right? But they understand gravity and they expose the fact that we do not. That's what's even more important. You see, we assume we are arrogant, and we have these Neil deGrasse Tysons out here who say, "Oh, I think we understand gravity." Fine, generate some. No, okay. Well, manipulate gravity. Oh, you can't. Can you control gravity in any way? No, then you do not understand it. These guys understand it. They understand it at a level that we can't even, most of us can't even comprehend or recognize as understanding. You see, um, why does Neil Tyson want to use his middle name? Because it sounds fancy. He's not Neil Tyson. No one cares what Neil Tyson says, but Neil deGrasse Tyson, he stands out. I don't know. I don't like him. I don't like him. I think he's a pretentious, pseudo intellectual snob who couldn't discover chicken if you locked him in a KFC. That's my opinion of him. He has contributed nothing to science. He goes out and repeats, well, he repeats wrong facts. You should hear him. I'm serious. Look up Joe Rogan Experience number 1347. It's Neil deGrasse Tyson just showing his whole ass, like being arrogant and mouthy and rude and condescending and wrong and wrong. He keeps like quoting things. He'll say, well, Newton described gravity as spooky action at a distance. No, he didn't. Einstein, he is the one who coined that phrase when he saw objects that could move at a distance. What he called, what is now known as quantum entanglement, he called spooky action at a distance. He could see that these things moved in sympathetic ways to each other over long distances. So that he was quoting the wrong physicist about the wrong phenomenon from the wrong century. I mean, wrong, just wrong. And then saying, oh, well, we understand gravity.
yet we can't control it. You understand gravity, then why do you spend all of your science money and all of your science time fighting it? Because if you control gravity, if you understand gravity, then you should be able to control gravity. These guys can. You see these guys move? They have no problem controlling gravity because they do understand it. What do? We build rockets. Why? Because we have to fight against gravity. We fight against that thing that we understand so well, yet have no control over whatsoever. I don't think so. When they bring astronauts back, you know what they do? They just let them fall. They just let them fall, and they give them a couple of parachutes and say, "Oh, well, hopefully that gets you down safe." You know, but these guys should be able to come down and go over and land where they want to. If you control gravity, if you understand gravity so well, then why don't you control it at all? So we have all these lies that we're being told, um, and it's time. It's time. It is time for us to stop pretending that this isn't happening to us, that these beings aren't here, that we aren't being visited, that we aren't being abducted, that things aren't being done to us, and that things haven't been done to us throughout really all of our known history. That we are a species that has been changed and affected and are actually much more closely linked with this extraterrestrial species than we would possibly believe. But it's time to get this truth out. And I have spent my life doing science. I have been dedicated to science my entire adult life. And I believe in the truth. And I believe in the truth at any cost. That, you know what? I wrote a book that was the number one bestseller in the physics of gravity. And I'm here to tell you these beings exist, that we are visited every single day. And like the channel's name and like the name of that new book that I've written, we live beneath the haunted sky, whether we know it or not. Denial of a fact does not change the fact, right? We have to be able to accept and embrace truth. And it's like this subject seems to be like hugging a cactus. We have to hug that cactus, and we have to go ahead and get over the growing pains of that. Because if we don't, then what we're doing is we're kicking the can down the line for future generations, for our children and our grandchildren to have to deal with. And the longer we wait, the greater the trauma will be and the harder the adjustment, you know? Um, some people say that our leaders have made agreements with ETs. We let them take people from national parks in exchange for technology. I think we're also dealing with multiple factions of ETs. I love that comment, Cosmic Nomad. Thank you for saying that. That's the other part of disclosure. Yeah. Because they don't want to talk about their little dirty backdoor deals they've made. They don't want you to know that they have sold us out. That not only are they not protecting us, but they've sold us out for technology. And this technology, I hope you go, Nomad, when I end this, go watch UFO physics and UFOs, a video that I have on this channel, and hear what I have to say. I have some things I say about that. But yes, we are dealing with multiple species. You see, while my interactions and my experience have been with one species, I know that there are multiple species that visit this planet. And out of those, um, most of them don't like us. And in Beneath the Haunted Sky, I tell you why that is. Um, but they don't just take them from national parks. They take me right from my house. They've taken me out of my bed from the time I was 6 years old to about 4 months ago, I think was the last time I remember, and that I had some evidence for myself that I had been abducted. I've been taken for over 40 years. And I've there have been attempted abductions of me from the highway. I talk about that in the book, what happened and how they tried to do it, and what the result was of that. And so these live streams are to welcome you guys back in and show you that I'm really putting forth the work and the effort to get this information out. I want to bring awareness to my book, Beneath the Haunted Sky, The Evidence for Alien Abduction. It's time to get this truth out, and we do that by everybody supporting it. So I hope that you click the link in the description and that you go ahead and pre-order the book. It's the Kindle's $9.99, and you can pre-order it, and it'll be released on December 1st, which is 10 days from now. And I'm very excited about it, and I cannot wait for you guys to read it and come back. And I can't wait for the live stream like the week after the book comes out. Um, I'm going to wrap up here soon, but I also wanted to announce that Jeff Mara confirmed with me actually during the last live stream. He sent me, I got an email during the last live stream that we confirmed December 1st as when I was going to be interviewed by him again. And then he'll be releasing that podcast the next day or two after that. So right after the book release, I will be on the Jeff Mara podcast, and he does a fantastic job. I'm such a fan of his channel, and I hope that if you're not aware of Jeff Mara's podcast, you go check it out because there's a lot of really interesting and good stuff there. The last time I was on the podcast, we talked about the Coral Castle and my scientific discoveries regarding that. And when I come back this time, I will be talking about my book, Beneath the Haunted Sky, and about my experiences that are related and led me to writing the book. And I'll be talking about a lot more subjects. So I hope that you not only get the book, but that you check out that podcast when it comes out, because it will be hopefully a great addition to the book. And it will also have the opportunity that you, after, like in the comments, or you can come over here and you can ask me whatever questions you'd like. And if I have the answer, I will give it to you. But my friends, I am so glad to see you. Thank you for stopping by and seeing me this morning. I didn't even announce this, and seeing all you guys is just great. And I appreciate all of the participation, the positive energy, the acceptance of it. And I really thrive on that. And it encourages me to do more of these, So you are going to be seeing a lot of me in the future, and that's not going anywhere. If you'd like to contribute, please feel free to join the Patreon, which is also in the link in the description. It's Patreon, Coral Castle TV. Now, I did a bit of a rebrand to the channel, but I only felt that that was appropriate based on the content that I'm putting here. I kind of had like two Coral Castle channels, but the other one was really for me to put what I was, what was present in my life and what was on my mind, and it ended up being this subject. And the more I started putting things out about my experiences, about my sightings, about my evidence, um, I just decided to go ahead and just dedicate one of these channels to nothing but the UFO UAP phenomenon, alien abductions, and the discussion of these things, the exopolitics. um, I have one question real quick before you leave. Have you ever seen the videos of people doing experiments that seem to show that moonlight is cold? I find that very strange. Well, I have, and I think this is something we've known for a long time. Moonlight has always been called cold light or silver light. Um, and I believe that it has to do with the fact that it's kind of deflected at an angle at us, that it is, um, it's like the difference between a flashlight in your face and somebody shining it off of a mirror at you, you know? Um, but it, I don't trust the moon. Yeah. So I have my own theories about that too, that, they say that the moon is hollow or the moon is fake. Um, and I will just tell you, in my opinion, it is occupied. whether natural or artificial satellite, it is occupied. Occupado, my friend. It is occupied on the dark side where we can't see it. And these guys are hidden everywhere that you don't see. Oh, yeah, no worries. Thank you for the question. Um, but please support the channel. Please support and pre order the Kindle of Beneath the Haunted Sky. Please consider becoming a patron if you like the contest. Hey, hi, Jeff Mara. Oh, I thought it was Jeff Mara. Hi, Chrissy. Looking forward to your Jeff Mara podcast. Yeah, me too. Me too. I think this has been a long time coming, and um, there's going to be, I think, so many people that are going to become aware of not just some of the bigger facts about the phenomenon, but about my work. And I feel like there's going to be a great outpouring of support for my work once it gets the right exposure. And Jeff Mara is one of those places. Jeff Mara reminds me a lot of Coast to Coast AM, and I was on there with George Norrie 3 times and we had a good time. And the response was amazing. I mean, they got me on television on the History Channel because so many people started buying the book and reading it and talking about it that it just became something that couldn't be ignored anymore. And that's what I want to see happen with this work too. I have put my life into this book. You get a real look at who I am and what I was going through. And you get so much evidence, and I mean high quality evidence, that I think it's going to be hard to see the world any other way after you read the book. You're going to see the world differently. And even if you already believe that they exist, this will give you, I really hope that it gives you a much better insight into what is going on. And so I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to wish you guys a wonderful morning. And I want to thank you. And I will be doing a lot of these in the next few days leading up to the release of Beneath the Haunted Sky, the evidence for alien abduction. And I hope that you keep coming back and visiting me and giving me these positive vibes and your great questions and your awesome participation. And let's be a team and let's bring this truth out to the world in a way that they have to love you for it and they'll believe you for it. Okay? Guys, have a great day. I love you.